Welcome. We'd like to call the work session agenda special meeting of RCC to order. And we do have a quorum. And so we'll start with introduction of guests. We'll start, Juliet, with you.
Juliet Long, Vice President of, I didn't have time to come up with.
I should have made you be last. I'm so sorry.
Sorry.
Dave Kohler, Vice President of Student Learning and Success.
Amy Harrington, Vice President of People, Culture and Safety and Chief of Staff.
Lisa Stanton, Vice President of Operations and Finance. COO.
Lisa Parks, Dean of Business and Workforce Development.
Rusty Reese, Dean of Health and Public Service.
Nicole Secreta, Dean of Enrollment Management.
C. Phelps, Dean of Instruction for Applied Technology.
April Hamlin, Dean of Student Success.
Greg McCown, Chief Facilities Officer.
Jason Mahmoud, Executive Director, Institutional Effectiveness.
Val Sinclair, Executive Director of the Road Community College Foundation.
Laura Chandler, Dean of General Education and Transfer.
Janine Hendricks, Dr. H, Dean of Curriculum and Academic Support.
Now, you heard a lot of names there, but one of them is new, at least to their role, but not to RCC, in his second day in his role. Rusty, would you mind sharing with the board a little bit about yourself and actually how long you've been at RCC? So Rusty is our new Dean of Allied Health, replacing the vacancy left by Dave moving forward.
Rusty Reese, born and raised here in Southern Oregon, graduate of Road Community College. My family's been here since the 1940s. My role at Road Community College, other than being a student, was a faculty in the adjunct and full-time role for the last 15 years, including Department Chair of Emergency Services up until 3 days ago. So that's where my background primarily is, working with the local high schools, being a faculty for paramedic education. So looking forward to being a part of this. Drinking from a hydrant right now. So
Well, welcome.
thank you very much.
All right, we're moving on to our college priority update, and I will turn it over to you.
Thank you. So appreciate the opportunity to share this information. When we had our board retreat, I shared most of this information with you in about 3 to 4 minutes. So this is going to be a little bit more depth for you all about pretty much everything that I shared there. Randy had asked me to talk a little bit about what we're doing within the Student Learning and Success division related to the college priorities. But as you all know, those are the 5, but we're really focused today on stabilizing enrollment and success. Those are the 2 that we're going to be talking about. And as I mentioned previously, when we look at these particular priorities, stabilized enrollment means something a little bit different to us now than it has in the past. As you all are aware, we have had tremendous growth over the last 3 years within our enrollments, our FTE and head counts, and due to a number of factors that puts a strain on our system fiscally because of the growth cap and all the things, right? So we're really looking at different ways. We're looking at stabilizing enrollment from a different perspective. Really looking at where are the opportunities for us that make sense right now, given the fiscal constraints and the uncertainty in the environment. So, and these 2 are so closely tied that we're really looking at student success and stabilizing enrollment together. One of the pieces with student success is, as you all are aware, we've been designated as that opportunity college, right? And that is great. We love that designation. We're the only one in the state to have it, the only public 2-year school in the state to have this designation. And it means that, you know, the students who come to Rogue and when they leave, they're earning at least 25% more than the counterparts who don't come here. That's meaningful to us. That means we're doing things right. But at the same time, we want to make sure that the success that they're having after they leave Rogue Community College, it counts for us. So what does that mean in terms of completions? Are our programs aligned in a way that they are actually getting that completion when they go? And sometimes they're not. So that's really one of the areas that we're focused on this year that really helps us with our metrics when it comes to student success. So as I mentioned previously to you all, I'm really looking at this these two college priorities from three different buckets. New students, persistence and completion, and the student experience. And the new students, it really focuses on attracting new students, because in order for us to really ensure that our enrollments are stable, we have to do more than just maintain current levels. We have to make sure that we are doing everything we can to get new students in, because a lot of this is also the student retention. That's the other piece of this. And so we are really going to have to look at the pipeline from the start to the finish, right? So from when we first reach out to students, whether it's in middle school, and all along that enrollment pipeline, all the way to the end to when they complete. And so these are the three buckets that we're really looking at. And it really helps us to make sure that we're focused on our mission, focused on access to higher education for our communities. And it also helps us protect our fiscal stability, right, and the sustainability of the college. So these are important areas for us. And we recognize that, you know, when students feel connected to the college, these other areas are going to fix themselves. And that's kind of that student experience piece. We want to make sure that students are feeling supported and connected to us. So when I asked the deans to put all of these strategies together to share with you, I asked them to look at all of the different strategies that we're thinking about through a number of different lenses. And I shared this with you previously, but how are they connected to our KPIs, right? I asked them to consider that first and foremost. Secondly, from the Great Colleges survey, the results and themes that we've seen over the past couple of years, what are these strategies doing to support those themes that we've pulled out of that information? You saw our CESI results, the Community College Survey of Student Engagement. So we know that there's areas that we need to work on with respect to student to faculty engagement and the active and collaborative learning. So are there strategies that are tied to those areas? The Community College Support Fund, with all of the changes that we've seen last year and this year, how are any of these strategies connected to that piece? And then, of course, our NWCCU Northwest Commission standards for accreditation and recommendations that we have. And then finally, I asked them to think about what professional development might we be providing for faculty and staff to support the initiatives that we want to engage in over the years. So with that, I wanted to start with new students, and I'm going to turn it over to Nicole.
Great, thank you. So as we think about new students coming in and we're looking at our fall enrollment on a daily basis to see where we're at, one of the strategies that we have had in place over the last few years is the open house, right? And we spend a significant amount of effort planning for the open houses and getting students and community members to come. Sometimes that equates to registration. Sometimes that just equates to getting to know what programs we have. But we did do open houses again on all three campuses this fall. And I think just to think about, like, from advising or financial aid, a lot of our systems today that you're going to hear might change is a one-on-one system. So in a day, you might serve 8 to 16 students. And in, go back one, please.
Sorry, it's going crazy.
All right, clicker. Here we go. All right. Okay. It's click happy here. Okay. So on 3 campuses, we were able to serve in just 12 hours. We saw 543 students or people from the community. They might not be students, right? But over 500 people came in a very short period of time. So we know that gathering people at very specific times to do something with us is effective and is working. Next slide. Excellent. And so we can see our numbers here. This is about advising. So in those 3 days or 3 campuses, in 12 hours, 80 students were seen with academic advising, right? And 50 students had financial aid questions answered. And then 68 students completed either an admission application or FAFSA application. So short period, big bang for our buck to get people on campus. Next slide. These are our registrations in August by head count. Our numbers and data are different than what they used to be and what we're doing. So we're still trying to finesse what we can get out of the system. But you can see the dots are the days that we had open houses, and they're at a higher level. But we see that when we do an open house like this, it does tend to increase afterwards because they might have seen an advisor and then they might go and register, the next week or something like that. Next slide. So one of the changes and strategies we will be looking at this year is doing some advising remodel and redesign to be less prescriptive, but to help students along the path and in the student experience. And so group advising is one of those things for new students that is a strategy used by a lot of colleges that we'll be exploring and looking at. It's in order to, as we see, driving a bunch of students to a place at a certain time, it allows us to be able to staff appropriately and then serve students in a way to get like tasks done. And so because of the open houses and what we've seen to be very effective, this will be a strategy that we're exploring. We'll be sending a team to NACADA, which is the advising professional organization, to the conference in October. We're going to visit group advising at COCC very soon to explore how they're doing some group advising. But those are some of the things we believe that group advising and some new advising strategies that we will talk about later will contribute to hopefully reducing some of those attrition rates, getting students to stay once they register and stay into their class, past their first 10 days in class, but also increasing kind of the course completion, term to term retention. The other thing for new students for enrollment management is we'll be working on an environmental scan. So as we look into the future and we think about RCC's strategic planning model and our KPIs, we need to really spend some time knowing who we're serving and who's out there in the community. And so that means looking at our demographics in Josephine and Jackson County. That means looking at who's coming out of college or the high schools and graduating, who are our college competition, where are students going if they're not choosing to come here, where are they going if they do transfer, what colleges and universities they're going to. Thinking about military students and potential students. So looking at different demographics and really having a better understanding of who is in our community, who we're trying to serve from an enrollment perspective. And so that will contribute to our planning processes moving forward, building out plans and thinking about that. It'll also partner with Lisa's area.
Yeah, similarly, from a workforce environmental scan perspective, providing information to the college about like, what are our programs? What are we offering? What are we missing? What are emerging businesses? What are some of the labor market trends, starting wages, career trajectories, demographics from our workforce, i.e. how many people are retiring out? How many people do we need to train to be ready to meet those demands? And similarly to what Nicole said, our educational competition, what programs are offered around us and is there enough workforce need to have different programs? We might be able to support several CNA programs in our region because we have that kind of a need. So these put together, all this environmental scan really helps our college remain relevant and responsive and make those informed decisions about programs. We can get granular as well. I'll be providing information to each program, CTE program, giving all of the specific workforce data to them that will help inform some of their curriculum decisions and programmatic decisions that way as well. So this is a good plan.
Another strategy that we want to use with our new students is with regard to new student orientations. New student orientations have gone through a variety of delivery platforms, and most recently it's really been either available online or kind of as a campus tour for students. But our faculty have given us a lot of feedback that students are coming into the classroom and they're not 100% prepared in ways that some new student orienting might be able to prepare them. So we are really re-envisioning our new student orientation to facilitate students transition to Rogue Community College for those first year first term students. And we want to provide more options for in-person new student orientations, and then also continue to maybe have an online version of that orientation, but maybe knowing that getting students on campus is really a more successful venture of really pushing people at the in-person options. We also really want to look at redesigning the content to focus on the most fundamental skills that students need to know as they start their first term. So how do I log into MyRogue, and how do I use Blackboard, our learning management system, and those kind of fundamental things? What do I need to know about the student standards of conduct or safety on campus? Or there's probably way too much to give them in a new student orientation, but really looking at what is most fundamental to getting students off to a really good start. And then we're hoping, because our faculty are telling us new student orientations, we need to reinvent those and re-deliver those. I think that they're going to help us inform what that content looks like, and also potentially work with them to create those academic program specific new student orientations. So we'll have this general kind of new student orientation, but as students are getting on their path and choosing their major, also helping them, working with faculty, collaborating with faculty on a academic program specific kind of new student orientation as well.
One of the other things that we're exploring and constantly working towards is how do we adjust our programming to meet the workforce needs. Part of that is going to include the redesign of our diesel and automotive programs and blending them into transportation technology. This isn't like many colleges might have a transportation technology program where you have diesel and automotive under one umbrella. It's actually blended programming in the first year with separation in the second year, where they can actually do some different specializations. Those specializations are important because they'll be able to obtain certificates through that, and we'll be able to attract a lot of the adult learners that are currently in the workforce who we don't want to start from scratch. We don't want to neglect their skills that we can leverage actually for our courses. That'll help us with the changes that are slowly creeping into Oregon for funding models as far as completion certificates and degrees. And it also will be blending our different departments. So for example, one of the areas, once we get our new buildings up and running, that we'll be able to bring in is our business department. Business side of things to supplement the automotive and diesel side of things, which will be, again, into that transportation technology. And all this is with the ultimate focus of student success. How can we serve our students, our communities, and by extension, ourselves in creating opportunities for success and living up to that idea of being an opportunity college.
Realizing a lot of students come into Rogue Community College with prior experiences, whether it be in the trades, maybe they're a welder, but didn't go through the traditional college experience. These colleges are appreciating that prior learning and giving them credit for that experience when it meets college level academics. This ultimately saves students a lot of money when they're not paying that full traditional tuition cost, but we're giving them the credits. It also helps them get closer to graduation sooner. It's really meaningful. The other portion of this is, while we're doing a lot of work with this, there's a lot of future opportunity of how can we expand this. This also further contributes to the relationships we're building with our industry partners, with our community, to help get students in and get them out so they're making good, well-paying jobs. So.
Okay, and the next part, the persistence and completion, that's the second bucket that we're looking at. And back to Nicole.
Yeah, so advising continues to really explore how we do advising, to really develop a model that's not just prescriptive scheduling advising, but really helps students to get on a major secure. They know what their plan is, and building an academic plan. So part of Jenzabar is having the tools and exploring those tools to make sure they're working for us. And so there are some tools built into Jenzabar in order to do program planners in J1, and partnering with our current conclusive degree audit system that we have in order to build those together. And so hopefully by the end of the year, you will for sure see that students do have academic plans. They understand how to use these tools, that they can run some of those plans and build that. The other thing is ensuring, so not only can our professional advisors do their work, and students can then access tools to ensure that they are, continuing to take the right classes at the right time to complete, is that our faculty will engage in some additional advising trainings in order to make sure that they have the training to use the system correctly, to know kind of how our functionality works within the system. Our faculty are essential in helping students really understand, and bridging the classes to your future career and then in transfer, but making sure that we are all on the same page. The last big piece to this is our SOS retention tool, which was early alert system. We've talked about that for the last few years and how many more faculty have been engaging in it. We haven't had the data, however, to see if the students are put into SOS, did they complete the class? Did they re-register next term? Did they get on an academic alert, or did they successfully complete? And so looking at the data, we've reconfigured and been working with Jenzabar to reconfigure that system to be able to have the access to that data, to make it a little bit easier to use and have some increased technology and automation for it. These things really are going to support our students that are part of that CSESF funds of adult learners, right? Our low income or Pell students, students that are underrepresented. These are the students that tend to be sometimes in those systems, and how we can then support them in a more effective way. So you will see comprehensively kind of an advising redesign of how we are really trying to support students through this processes.
And then when students are in programs such as apprenticeship, there are some programs where there's industry credentials built into it. Like, you must have a certain amount of hours before you can sit for certifying exams. And this work to make sure that those hours are aligned with a completion is really important. So currently, apprenticeship is an example. People sit long enough to maybe take their journey worker examinations, and they don't fully complete the program as it's designed currently. So we aren't showing that completion. That will get cleaned up here. I'm working on that immediately, just to align programs to ensure that even when industries change and standards change for hours, that people can complete. It's kind of like a forced completion almost, to make sure that it's really tight and aligned. And that will also support our college at the state level with success, and for that community college support fund, knowing that those completions are happening.
Earlier, you heard Nicole mention helping students become major secure, which is about selecting a program of study early on in a student's academic journey so that they are really focused on getting to that completion. We find that the more students churn in their academics and don't really kind of settle into a program of study, the less likely they are to complete. And so kind of in partnership and in concert with what advising is planning to do to help students become major secure, we're going to also be invested in some student success workshops that are presented throughout the term that help drive students toward that, selecting a major, becoming major secure, and getting into a program of study. And so we're going to do that with a series of workshops that are really intended to help focus on retention, help students stay on the path, and think about their career interests and do some exploration if they're still kind of deciding what they want to do with their education. And then some really kind of academic based student success workshops around goal setting and time management, effective study skills, becoming aware of campus resources, and getting to that really commitment to settle into a program of study. We're also hoping that in addition to presenting these as in-person on-campus workshops, that we'll we'll record them as an online kind of presentation, get them posted to the web so that students can kind of dip into these topics on demand as the time may benefit them. So looking forward to that kind of creation of a bank of knowledge for students.
Transfer articulations. So that's another area that we want to focus on to help with persistent and completion by giving students clear pathways if they're intending to transfer. Currently, we have 10 graded degrees with SOU and 8 with Oregon Tech. And you can kind of read through those up there. What we're hoping to do is create more of these articulation transfer degrees with other institutions. In looking at the data, the school behind SOU where the most of our students transfer to is actually Oregon State. And we don't have any articulation agreements or anything set up with them. So I've been talking with some folks up at Oregon State about developing some degrees. Engineering is a big one, maybe some in the area of science, but whatever makes sense to partner with. But expanding our degree articulations with other institutions to help better support our students, give them a clear pathway, ensure that they transfer to junior status. So that's some additional work we're going to be doing this year.
And to build on that, as you're aware, a lot of our students that come here, stay here. We're working, as a matter of fact, next month with SOU on reinvigorating some of our articulation agreements and exploring what other ones may be out there. That being said, we have ongoing work with Oregon Tech, working to get them out here teaching classes on our campus for students in the 4-year programs. So the idea would be that we would teach the 2-year program, and they would have direct transfer into Oregon Tech here where they are. For us in the springtime, summertime, certain parts of fall, it might be easy to get over the hill, but for a student, that's not an easy task. So for them to be able to get here and provide that technical knowledge that this region is kind of lacking at the 4-year level that SOU is not offering, so will be 2 separate things, is something that'll help with the student persistence, student success, and again, returning back to the community, the value that we see existing right here, that we know will stay right here.
Again, co-requisite support courses. I've talked about those a few times here with this group. I think maybe 3 years ago, I did a presentation when we were first starting it, and we just continuing that work. We started with statistics 243, and let me back up a little bit. Just to refresh you, co-requisite support is the idea that student can go directly into a college level class, even if maybe the placement says they're not ready for that, with a co-requisite support course to help them with just-in-time instruction and be successful in that course. So currently, we started with Stat 243, and students can go directly into Stat 243 with that co-requisite support, regardless of placement. And this past year, our pass rates in Stat 243 were 68%. So not a significant decrease in pass rates, yet we're getting students at all levels going in there and being successful. After that, we went to writing 115, and we this past year have a pass rate of 71%. And so students can go directly. We have no more DevEd writing courses, DevEd being below 100. And so students can go directly into that. And last year we started offering Math 105 with the co-requisite support course, contemporary math. And we saw a 64% pass rate. What I've noticed with all of these is the more we do it, the pass rates go up as instructors get used to the model and teaching it and identifying the pitfalls. So I would anticipate those numbers would increase. But even 64% for students that placed and may have had 3-4 levels of developmental ed. And historically, if you place 3 places below college level, only about 10% of those students ever complete a 100 level math class, a college level math class. So comparative to that, 64% is amazing. So we've done a lot of work there, and this year we're going to work on our co-requisite support for Math 111. This is significant for a number of reasons. Obviously, the student success, reducing barriers, getting more students passing college level. But in addition to that, the HEC has announced that they're looking at no longer funding reimbursable funding for developmental ed, math and writing courses. So the work that we've been doing is us to be ready for that trend. So done a lot of work there. This also helps with the Community College Support Fund. One of the measurements for that funding is passing a college level math or writing class with the first year. This will obviously help with that because they'll be moving right into those courses and do that. So it supports that as well.
Okay, and then the final bucket, the student experience, and this kind of brings it all together. So with Nicole again.
Yeah, so April and I are very excited this year to partner together. You know, when we came together as a division and student affairs became part of SLS, you know, it's been a few years to try to figure out how does this look and how does this work. And so this year we're really partnering together. We're calling these Wednesday morning meetups. No, it's midweek meetups. I get the name wrong every time, but ultimately we are spending the majority of Wednesday mornings from 8 to 9 a.m. training up, co-training our teams to be able to support students. So we did a big retreat on one of our closure Fridays with the whole team. There were about 60 people who came, and we partnered together. We talked about enrollment. We talked about customer service. We talked about all of our new systems so that we start to re-engage and make sure that people can talk about other areas or at least have some semblance of knowledge around what's happening with the left hand versus the right hand, or I know enough to be able to help a student even if it's not my expertise. And so we're building out our training plan for this academic year, and we're really excited about the work that we're doing with our teams together. One of the other things from a student experience is a data review and systems review. So a part of the student experience is how do our processes or policies impact student and student success. And so some of the data that we're working with IR on are things like late registration. If a student registers late, right before the term starts, the first days of the term, does it impact their ability to complete a course? Do we have that data? What does that data say? We talk about this all the time and we say all sorts of words around it. Yes, it does. No, it doesn't. But to have the data to make some decisions. The same with admission applications. Like we close our admissions on Wednesday prior to the term starting. Do we know? And we do. We can get the data with our friends in IR, but how does that impact a student's ability to complete classes and to complete and do term-to-term retention based off of when they do their admission application? And if it's very last minute, does it actually make a difference? How do those things impact our attrition rate of students actually staying past the first 10 days of class? How does it impact term-to-term retention? So we're really trying to look at data to then better inform our academic calendar and our processes. These are processes that we decide on, but having the data to inform it is going to be really important for us. Next slide. Too far. One less. There we go. Yeah. The other piece of this is really looking at systems. So we've implemented Genzabar. We've implemented over the last couple of years Power Fades. We have a lot of new systems that our tools and our teams are using. And so really looking at this, part of our KPIs talk about enhancing internal systems and communication practices for improved collaboration. We talk about leveraging existing, new, and emerging technologies to improve the student experience. And then in our Great Colleges surveys, there was kind of this the questions about how technology is either helping you or not helping you and how you feel connected to the work that we're doing. And so part of this is really looking at our systems. We're not launching a big new ERP this year. We've done it. We did the work. We launched it. We've had a year in it. Now, how do we improve it and make it the best for the student experience? And for the staff experience as well, I will just say. And so some of that is looking at our admissions. How do we better automate the admissions processes, the admission application for credit students, the admission application for our nursing students, the admission application for our apprenticeship students. So how is that experience of coming into our pipeline, and then from admissions all the way through registration, what tools or softwares, automation can we build? So we are building out processes and workflows and looking at with Genzabar, how can we do better reporting, get the tools we need. The other piece is for financial aid. So we did launch PowerFades 2 years ago, I would say. I'm guessing it was within the last 3 years for sure. But PowerFades is our new financial aid tool, right? And so some of the efficiencies we had in RogueNet do not happen yet in PowerFades. And so we've got a consultant coming in to make sure that we're being as efficient as possible, using the tool to its efficiency and maximum in order to better process students. So that includes a variety of student groups that have certain special things and all the clicks of the buttons that we have to do, but how can we automate and work through? So we're working closely with Richard's team to work on those. We have purchased a registration. It's a registrar in the registrar's office, a transcript software. This transcript software is so cool when we get it done, but it will look at transcripts and it'll basically read it and then it'll implement it in. And 90% of the work of clicking and downloading and looking at each and every transcript for our transfer students, it takes us a long time to do, will be very quick. Then it's just a much faster process. So from a student experience, they'll be able to come in with transcripts that they're transferring into, and we'll be able to process and advise them and get them registered and going much faster. And then Lisa Parks is obviously working on the marketplace integration to J1. So, you know, these are these plug and play Genzabar systems, the admissions JRM, the campus marketplace, and trying to get these to be merged in so that we have the data of the non-credit students in campus marketplace that we can pull all in the same place in J1. And we're not duplicating efforts in both systems of building courses in both systems and moving students into another system. So these are some of the big enhancement of, we've bought these systems, let's make them work the best for our students so that they can get the tools and the information they need as fast as possible. The other piece is student communication. So working closely with the marketing department and Jamie's team, we have a new tool called Communications Plus. It's a Genzabar tool also. It allows us to basically build out information of based off of a student experience and student life cycle of when a student reaches a student status, we can send out an automated email, right? Or we can send out a communications. If it's a certain population, we can do and build out these types of communications. We call these drip campaigns a lot of times. Drip campaigns are a series of communications that we drip to someone in emails, but using it to figure out what we can do via text message if we want, via email, we can track the information. So we've been gathering all the information from starting with enrollment management. Right now we've gathered 60 communications we send, figuring out when we send it, what do we say, how do we say it, what is the voice we say it in? And I will tell you today, we say it in all different voices from every different department. And so really making this a better RCC experience despite who might be saying what, and making sure that it's consistent so students aren't like getting 10 emails one day and then 0 emails for another week and a half, right? So really thinking about our student communication. So we're very excited about this work. We are doing a Rogue Central redesign. It's 2 phases, but the big thing is a remodel here at TRC. So working with facilities on co-locating and moving from those cubicles where our advising and financial aid have. We will be sharing and working up close with our friends in the tutoring center in Dr. H's area and creating kind of a new front door and a new experience for students. And so that they would be more co-located like we are at the other campuses in Rogue Central areas there. It's hard for students to come into that door and the stairs, and sometimes it's staffed and sometimes it's not, and trying to see like, is someone working in these cubicles and we can't see into them? And so that's a big deal. The other piece is really looking at our student experience, right? Right now it's really, we have 3 campuses and we have a certain number of staff. And so how do we serve students on all 3 campuses to make sure that they get the financial aid information, the advising information, the forms all the things that we need to tell them within the staffing level we have. And so really considering how we operate from a personnel and process perspective and what changes we'll make this year. Next slide. The last thing for me to say today is when we did switch from RogueNet, one of the things we didn't really have and haven't had is a sophisticated software to check students in. And so when they come to Rogue Central to see an advisor, we have a check-in system that says like, oh, they're in the log, and then an advisor grabs them and goes takes them. But we haven't had the ability to really look at the data to then make good decisions around staffing levels, peak times, which campuses have more activities based off of which department, even down into staffing and their activities that they're doing with students. And so temporarily, we are keeping kind of a similar login that's very basic, we built internally, but we have had Riley Smith, who's been hired into as an advisor. He was a student employee, you might know that name, but he has built us a dashboard that we can use to give us all the data we're looking with the timestamps, how long is the student experience and the student wait, how many people are being seen by which department and which areas, by which campuses, and this will help us as we make decisions around staffing levels for that student experience. And this is in waiting for what Dr. H is leading next.
Why, thank you, Nicole. So in order for us to improve our student experience, we identified a need last spring with regards to some of our service departments that there was a need to be able to figure out, you know, how can we better serve our students? And so with collaboration with Lisa, I think she was wearing her IT hat at that time. ESOM helping out with IR. Vicky McCurry organized all of, you know, the vendors come through, and Nicole. Anyway, we selected a student management software, and what this software is going to do, and we're going to be able to start that for fall term. I talked to them today. We're on track with that. This software is going to be able to, you know, identify those high traffic times and will allow us to be able to better schedule the tutoring hours. Same thing with, you know, like library services and stuff like that. And we already had last year knowing, you know, we know finals, you know, that's a high, you know, high time, you know, or where the students, you know, really need access to the library and stuff like that. So we had worked together with ASG, the tutoring center and library services. So there were like Friday nights, there was stuff on Saturdays, you know, coffee was provided and stuff. So, you know, the students had a place to prepare for finals. So again, with this software that we're purchasing, is really going to help us identify, you know, what do we need this shift? You know, where is that need? And again, we've kind of learned that, you know, our students aren't just here, you know, 8 to 5. And it's like, there are those evening students. So this is going to allow us, with the director of academic success and library services, she's kind of spearheading this, is going to be able to make those decisions to better schedule those departments. This one's mine too. So working with Jesse Watson, the director of GED and pre-college education, his department realizes, you know, we are on limited funds when it comes to, you know, general funds usage. So you know, he's working to identify, you know, those partners that we can, you know, basically kind of not latch on to, but continue to, you know, utilize those services. He's working with CAS and the foundation, you know, like TRIO, those services that we can still be able to provide for our students in GED and pre-college. So again, you know, even though there may be limited funds, but it's like, okay, the sections that we are offering, you know, meeting the needs of the community, are, you know, are the sections fuller, and trying to just, you know, look with that. He's also working with Lisa Parks, and that'll lead us to our next slide. So here's an example of that.
Yes, as an example, speaking also to the work that we're doing to ensure that we have the data to make these informed decisions. Jesse Watson, again, for pre-college and GED, working to figure out, where do those students go? Do they roll in our classes after they gain their their GED here at the college. So we are partnering with the CTE programs and community and workforce and the isolating the GED and pre-college population specifically to offer some CTE hands-on experiences. We do a lot of demo days. They're very successful for external stakeholders to come in, and they're very successful for people starting programs or coming into our college because they've had that experience. So we're going to provide a hands-on experience through all of the different CTE programs and sectors that we offer for that population specifically. And then we can kind of have a baseline also to track and start tracking if people gain interest there and sign up for classes. So that's an exciting internal partnership that we'll be doing.
One of the other things that we have going on is our IET trainings, and our IET trainings are kind of mandated by the state through a Career Pathways grant. And they're specifically meant to target the populations of students that are not necessarily our traditional, you can call any student at a community college a traditional student, but the students that are not necessarily college ready. So our pre-college students, adult basic ed, English language learners, or whatever the acronym is. So we currently have the CIS 120 class, our basically introduction to computer sciences, and our intro to health, our health, I forget what it is, but one of our health classes are the first two ones that are in there that we've already kind of integrated into our planning. We do have funding to continue this. This is important for us because we have, as I'm sure you're aware, some volatility in our funding structures through government right now. That being said, Title II, one of the big things with Title II, we were told to budget out for 1 year rather than the extended they've done. So 26-27 is up in the air. That does not mean that our work in these areas stop. And by serving these students, we're also creating the pipeline into the community college setting. In trying to capture some of those students are adult learners, basically, that don't have the same access as everybody else for various reasons. And with the other funding sources kind of being in question, we have to make sure that we're diligent with our IETs to ensure that we can continue with our FTE and ultimately transition to our certificate programs and hopefully degree programs.
Aligned with all of this work that really starts at helping students get the strongest start possible and get on the path and then stay on the path. This year, we're going to really spend a lot of time trying to create a transfer culture for our students. And so really looking at providing some enhanced services for that transfer that includes a lot of our CTE programs. We have students who complete their program and they're going right into a career. And so what are those career-based workshops that we can help strengthen students' abilities to get those jobs when they complete their program of study? And we also want to really start looking at how are we supporting our students as they complete their AAOT, their ASOT, their 2-year degree with that intent to transfer. How are we helping support that transfer to university with some workshops that really focus on completion and focus on the next step in terms of pursuing your educational career? And I think we're gonna use a lot of the TRIO SSS best practices that they've already got strong graduation and completion rates and transfer rates, and model some of the work that we do both in the STEP program, but just generally for our students about what the TRIO SSS program is doing as well. Oh, yeah. So there's one more slide that I have, which is about meeting students' basic needs. Again, you'll recall Dr. Cook's unprecedented 1,500-mile run this summer, which raised over $168,000 for Oregon Community College students in meeting their basic needs. And here at Rogue Community College, I think donors donated to Rogue over $11,000. And so we're going to be taking a look at how to use that new money to really help support students as they encounter some of those financial hurdles. There's a lot of research that says students can be basically lifted off the path with just a $500 or less unanticipated financial cost. So how do we help students with those things? And so we're looking to increase the number of student participants who are enrolled in our SNAP training and employment program, which is students who qualify for SNAP. That's the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. How do we help those students also continue to engage with their education as they are moving through their education? And we're looking at creating campus-specific teams that help support those students as they're moving through their education with services based on the campus they attend schools in. We're also really strengthening our partnerships with our local food pantries, Access, Josephine County Food Pantry, and making sure that we're helping to address that food insecurity with food access to students on campus. And then our Osprey Care Fund continues to help be that source of support for students if they have those unanticipated financial costs that could derail them. But we're hoping won't derail them. And we've definitely done some research on kind of those outcomes. Students express so much gratitude, and also the research indicates that they get through their term, which is the goal, right? Like stay the course, finish your classes, get through your term. So lots of really good data that support that Osprey Care Fund is helping our students stay in classes. So those are some elements to that.
One of the things that we're doing over in health sciences is we're trying to build our simulation. Let me not say trying, we are building out our simulation center of excellence. We have funding for this already. And this is something that over the next few months and certainly by this time next year, hopefully you all will have had an opportunity to go visit it and look at all the cool things that we can do in there. It's really good for learning and great. It's a video game type experience, so that gamification. It is fun. Like I said, funding is there, and this is going to do something for us. That is one of our priorities of the stabilizing enrollment. A challenge that we all learned in 2020 was that sometimes stabilizing enrollment is trying to keep people here. This provides an alternative for students to be able to complete their health sciences coursework while if there's another disruption to our society where we can't be out in public or whatever. So not only does this enhance their experience by giving them state-of-the-art training, helps bridge some of that deficit we may have if there's clinical site challenges that we have. It also provides a significant amount of resilience for us in being able to continue training should we have another pandemic type experience. Hopefully we don't. And then this is really awesome. And I mentioned video games, like we need to bring Wii back for this. We are going to be bringing in a LED wall. An LED wall is something, if you've seen The Mandalorian, that's how they did it. And basically what it is, big, huge TV screen. I'm being very basic with this, by the way. And you can take your camera and move around your actors or actresses, and the scenery behind them moves. So it's a totally immersive experience. This is part of us also building out a digital media production program, which is all forthcoming really fast here. One of the things that this is going to do is this is really going to set Rogue Community College apart from any other community college, at least in the state of Oregon. The only other place in Oregon that has one of these is community college is PCC, and they use it for decoration. They don't use it for learning. They don't use it for enhancing the learning environment. This will also be something that we can use to help our media and our outreach programs and stuff like that. We can do a whole bunch of stuff with this, and this technology is coming here. We actually have a new employee who is coming quite literally from Hollywood who does this stuff. And she'll now be doing it here, sharing her experiences with our students.
Okay, so now we're at the point, I think we've left a little bit of time for questions. We're trying to get up to 48. We'd only have 2 minutes for questions, but this is good. I do want to mention that we already have identified several areas for targeted professional development for faculty and staff related to all of these, including the co-requisite support classes, courses that you've heard about, and my math and writing, guided pathways. We're sending a team to the CALE conference, which is credit for prior learning, integrated education and training. There's some targeted professional development for folks there, creating that culture of transfer and simulation. Those are all areas that we are going to be actively sending teams of people to this year. So I just wanted to throw that out there, and but yeah, we'd be happy to answer questions. Hopefully that gives you a little bit higher level of detail of all of the things that you may have heard, and they all the deans have probably provided it to you in a more eloquent way than I could, so. Appreciate their work on this.
Nice choreography between people. Pat, you look like you want to say
Let
something.
me ask a question about, Math 111, that the COREX is in process, is that in development, is it done? The only reason why I ask, I'm thinking about taking it, so it's.
It is not done. I'm hoping to roll it out fall. We have to get it through our curriculum committee and
Okay.
process. And that's probably the heaviest lift of the classes, just based on the amount of algebra and content in that. So started with maybe the lower hanging fruit, get some experience with this COREC model, get some buy-in with this COREC model. But that's the one where we're gonna work on and tackle this year.
Are you saying winter term would be better?
I would say fall,
Next fall.
26 would be awesome.
Okay.
Oh,
To
it's a
go
good
through
wait a
the
year.
curriculum process.
Okay.
That's what
It's not on the
yeah.
books yet.
Just wait, Pat.
In October, we're actually going to listen to a math faculty member and a writing faculty member, one from Pima Community College, one from Michigan, who have been doing this co-requisite model for at least 10 years now. And they're gonna be sharing the best practices with Oregon and all of the folks across Oregon. So we're excited to hear that.
Well, let me say, wow, it's really impressive to see all of the collaboration that's going on now between the various silos that, have existed for a long time. It's just in the emphasis on systems thinking. I mean, that was just really makes a lot of sense, because that's the way a student is going to see it, and to say, okay, we got to be consistent. And so that was really nice to hear. Just one specific question. Steve, you mentioned something about OIT teaching classes on our campus. Now, is that going to happen? Is that they're going to finish a 4-year program on our campus and get credit at OIT? Is that how it's going to work?
It'll actually be OIT personnel here. They'd be OIT students. Effectively, we'd be lending them space. And then, so the students will be taking their classes, their curriculum, everything's theirs, and graduating with their degree. The idea is that we would become that pipeline for them, and we're calling it Medford 61. There's a little story behind that, but they're wanting to have a presence out here in Medford, much like what they do up in Portland and Southern Washington.
Makes a lot of sense. So most of the students then are coming from their campus or coming from our campus and just, okay. And so their years 3 and 4 are gonna be over here rather than taking the classes over there. And so there's gonna be a lot of transportation on the part of the faculty, I assume.
They're planning on hiring people that live out here. And part of the model, this is very infantile stages, so I don't want to say it's a guarantee, but part of the model would be for our faculty that are qualified to teach some of their elements, we do faculty sharing.
Sure.
And again, that's the idea, the pie in the sky, so we'll see how close we can get, but they are planning on hiring faculty that would be out here and eventually providing a coordinator or an advisor type person that would be housed out here as well.
Do you know which one of the engineering departments who work on electrical and civil or?
So they're actually looking at doing the, it's gonna be the applied science engineering, not the traditional one, so it's a different take on it, so I have no idea where they're going with that, but the idea is that they can use our equipment and stuff like that. And
So yeah, because that generally takes some fairly sophisticated labs to get through those programs. And I don't think we have them, so, but that's okay, that's great. Thank you. Appreciate the clarification.
Nothing from you. I just appreciated, I was gonna say the systems thinking and really having that lens of student experience. And how can we increase their staying with it power to do that? So I appreciate everybody giving us your information, especially as we're entering into fall term. Gives us a broad sense of what's happening so that we can better support you through our work as well. So anything else?
I'll reserve my comments for my report in the next meeting.
All right, well, we will close the work session and we'll take a couple minute break if we need to, and then we'll open the next one.
5:03 start.